managing resources, taking control, or over controlling, enhancing your depth, or getting caught up in trivia. The continuation of emotionality. These are all pressures and qualities that this cycle of the Human Design Weather for March 29th to April 4th, 2026 bring. Hello, and welcome to the Human Design Weather or Not podcast with me, Margot Fraser. We're just going to dive right in here. This cycle begins March 29th at 10:50 p.m., going until April 4th at 3:43 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. Universal Time Coordinates, that's coming in March 30th at 4:50 a.m., going until April 4th at 9:43 p.m. So remember to convert that to your own time zone so you know when it starts and ends for you. We always start with the Sun-Earth activations, as that's 70% of the conditioning field. The Sun has moved into Gate 21, the trait of the hunter and huntress, also called the trait of control. It's in the ego center, the heart center, which is a motor that provides willpower. Its keynote says the justified and necessary use of power in overcoming deliberate and persistent interference. This is part of the tribal traits with the underlying theme of mutual support. If you've got this gate in your design, no one should ever tell you how to make your money, how to spend your money, what to wear, what to eat, or where to live. No micromanaging. Someone who's got the 21. This is probably the most powerful ego gate. It's meant to be controlling. That is correct for it, being able to take control. And this controlling force is really necessary in order to be able to serve and protect the tribe. It's a trait that really serves the community, more on the business and entrepreneurial side. Just for context, the tribe has a drive within it for survival of the species by making more of us and caring for the young. So there's a lot embedded in it around family and community. But families and communities need resources. So there's an entrepreneurial business side of the tribal circuitry as well. Here, this trait establishes for the community and business what's viable and what works to make sure that the community really has what it needs, such as food and shelter and the work that's needed and so on. It's in the ego center, so willpower. Well, willpower cannot be sustained indefinitely. It needs its rest. So this trait is there to make sure that there's reward for the work through leisure time, having that time to rest. This trait has very strong management energy to help look after the needs of us humans living together on this material plane. And it does extend beyond the material to looking after the needs at the spiritual level as well. You can think of its electromagnetic, gate 45 in the throat center, that's the trait of the gatherer, as the CEO of a business that's externally facing, there to gather support for the business. Now, this trait, gate 21, is more like the president. It's internally facing to make sure that every part of the business is operating for success. How the trait operates depends on your type. So if you're a projector, you have to be recognized that you're the one that has to be in control. Otherwise, you're not going to be meeting the right people. If you're a generator, including, of course, manifesting generators, you can only take control when someone asks you and you respond to it. A manifester has to ask permission before taking control. This gate biologically is associated with the physical heart. So if you have an undefined heart center and you try to take control without waiting and following your strategy and authority, you can end up with heart problems. You might find yourself drawn to examining your resources and making any shifts needed to cut spending or obtain necessary resources or reallocate where needed this cycle. If you don't have this trait in your design and you're taking it in through this transit, the energy is going to be amplified, and you may find yourself very resistant to being controlled or micromanaged. Remember that the open centers take in and amplify. And since we do have the ego center defined, because we've got the channel of community in the transit as well, yeah, that amplification is going to be very present in the world. This frequency can bring conflict and overreaction to any perceived infraction of that overstepping. If you are lacking resources and unsure of what to do, there could also be an amplified sense of powerlessness with this trait present. At the same time, the opportunity for new ways to bring in resources could emerge. So be open to that. All the possibilities of taking control, being over controlling, and being out of control can play out with this trait. Now, this gate of control is being grounded in the Earth's position, gate 48, the trait of depth. This is also called the well. It's in the splenic center, our most primal awareness center associated with survival, health, and well being. Now, last cycle, we started moving through all of the splenic gates. We had the Earth in gate 18, the trait of correction that can know what's not working in the pattern. And now we're moving up to gate 48, the trait that has the depth to come up with the solutions to what's not working. This is collective logic, sharing about those patterns impersonally that can carry us safely and reliably into the future. Its keynote says the necessary and qualitative foundation that is a prerequisite to establish the common good. The common good is a reminder that this is meant to be for the betterment of humanity. That's what the collective is ultimately about. This trait has this amazing depth from what one's collected through life. If you have gate 48 in your design, there may be some innate depth within you as well. There's a capacity to understand the pattern deeply and share it so that it can be experimented with and refined. Logic has that drive for perfection. So you may notice increased perfectionist tendencies through this cycle, something I mentioned last cycle as well, because we had two logic traits in the Sun Earth positions then. If you do have this trait in your design, as you follow your strategy and authority, you'll collect exactly what you're supposed to nurture your depth. It does take time for depth to be gained, for that well to be filled. You may really get a handle on potential solutions and be able to practice and play with it. So when the opportunities arise in the future, those can be expressed out for others to experiment with. Logic, again, always brings this quality of perfectionism. If you have a talent you're developing, these frequencies could really be helpful in giving you the concentration to keep up with the repetition and the practice that's necessary to develop that talent. Be open to any solutions that want to come through you this cycle. Now, you could also get caught up in trying to perfect something beyond what's really of value and wasting energy as a result. There could also be some frustration as you might have potential solutions, but without a connection to the throat, it's hard to express it clearly. In taking in all the patterns, that well of this gate 48 can end up taking in a lot of junk as well, a lot of trivia. However, ironically, in this age, people can now make a lot of money from knowing a lot of trivia. Anyways, this trait carries the fear of inadequacy, the fear that you don't have the depth of understanding and skills to bring solutions, and that your talent isn't developed enough. This could have you signing up then for courses and so on to get what you think is missing. But if you're not following your strategy and authority, you could end up spending a lot of money on something that you'll never use. So something to watch for there. When we look at these two traits together, the depth of the 48 may help to find practical solutions for gaining needed resources in managing what you have, Or there may be a sense of being inadequate in taking control of your material needs. Or you could try to take control of things that are actually trivial and not worth your energy. All right, let's look at our channels now. A reminder that when the transit field creates a channel, everyone that doesn't already have it in their chart is receiving the activation of the related traits and qualities. So it has a big impact that way. Well, as we have for quite some time now, we're going to start with our long-term channel. It came in on December 22nd. It's with us until May 13th. This is being created by the south and north nodes of the moon. And the nodes represent our direction and environment and what we see in the world. So we have the north node sitting in gate 37, the trait of friendship and family, and the south node sitting in gate 40, the trait of deliverance and aloneness in the ego center. So we have the emotional center connecting to the willpower center. Lots of emotionality, lots of willfulness. Well, this is present. It's tribal with that theme of mutual support. And we're going to see who's getting supported, who's not getting supported. We're going to feel the pressure to support and to be supported. Now, these two traits create the channel of community, a design of a part seeking a whole. So there's going to be this pressure to find your place in your family, in your community, in the totality. Where do I belong? That is going to be there in the field. And if you have a sense of not belonging, that could really be amplified. Well, this is present. And out of that, we could see people joining groups and organizations and so on, trying to find that sense of belonging. But if they're not using their strategy and authority, it may not work out so well and just end up in frustration or bitterness or anger or disappointment, depending on your type. Expect to see all the themes of the tribe play out here. This is the channel of the marriage contract and contracts in general. So any sense of agreements being unfair is going to lead to a sense of being taken advantage of. That's going to be amplified. Loyalty and betrayal, jealousy and friendship, fairness and unfairness, all part of the qualities that we see play out with this channel. All right, we've got a couple of moon transit channels this cycle. So they're just short little tasters because the moon only activates a gate or a trait for about 10 or 11 hours, give or take. The first is going to come in on April 2nd at 11:09 p.m., going until April 3rd at 10:05 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in April 3rd at 5:09 a.m., going until 4:05 p.m. We have the moon moving into gate 50, the tribal trait of values and tribal laws. This is in the splenic center, and it's connecting with gate 27, the trait of caring in the sacral center that's being activated by Venus. Together, they create the channel of preservation, a design of custodianship. This is part of the tribal defense circuitry that's all about making more and then looking after them. This is the looking after them side. We made them, now we have to care for them. But it can extend as well into caring for our businesses, caring for projects, that type of thing as well. So what values and nurturing are needed to allow the thriving of that literal child or our creative child? This is the pressure that's going to be here with this. It's also the sacral center connecting to the splenic center. So the sacral center is about work, right? Using this vital energy to work. So work on your health. That's what the splenic center is about. And that's going to be inherent, this work on your health and well-being with this channel present. Next up, we have coming in on April 4th at 8:10 a.m., going until 7:19 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time. UTC coming in April 4th at 2:10 p.m., going until April 5th at 1:19 a.m. The moon moving into gate 1, the trait of the creative in the G center. It's connecting with its electromagnetic, gate 8, the trait of contribution in the throat center. Together, they create the channel of inspiration, a design of a creative role model. This is part of the individual circuitry that can bring something new and mutative. If you have this channel in your design, part of your role is to be a living example of uniqueness. This channel can support you in contributing your unique creative expression to a group. However, it is rooted in knowing that true creative inspiration is independent of will. The ego likes to think you can just will creativity on demand. And that's really not how it works. All the individual traits operate in a pulse. It comes when it comes. There can also be, since it's going up to the throat, this kind of blurting out of your creative expression when it hasn't been invited. And in that case, it's likely to be to the wrong people at the wrong time and won't be recognized and have that desired impact. That brings us to our long-term transits. The long-term transits are created by the nodes of the moon and the outer planets. They're with us for longer periods of time, years in some cases. So your not self mind can sometimes start to think that that trait's part of you, even when it's not something you have in your design. And then when that transit moves on, that can be rather confusing to the mind. Now, we just have one line change in Saturn this cycle. Otherwise, everything else is stable. So I'll just go through these relatively briefly. Starting with the nodes in the transit field, they bring that homogenized perspective and direction that we'll see in the world. So we've already talked about it. It's the nodes. They're bringing that channel of community through gates 37 and 40, connecting the emotional center and the willpower center. That's creating this design of a part seeking a whole. Specifically, they're sitting in line 4, having a very long run in this particular line. For gate 37, the trait of friendship in the emotional center, line 4 is called leadership by example. In its exaltation, those that exhibit exemplary behavior and the highest principles will be seen as leaders over even those who are the traditional leaders. In the detriment, however, only the traditional, typically patriarchal leaders are accepted, even if they're not good role models and not good leaders. Gate 40 brings an ego that will organize, work to balance, rest. That's something that can be very beneficial at a personal level. At the collective level, we're more likely to see the detriment of the workaholic who's trying to satisfy all sorts of different people to get its ego stroked, improve itself, and in the end ends up being just less productive. Let's move on to our outer planets now. Jupiter sitting in gate 53, the trait of beginnings and development in the root center, with its pressure to start a new experience. It's in line 1 called accumulation. I'm not sure if the exaltation is still present in the world with this, but the exaltation is all about the pressure to begin something new, not from scratch, but based on the foundation of the old. In the detriment, there's a holding back from starting something due to the criticism that was experienced last time. That's that insecurity of the first line playing out there. Saturn sitting in gate 17, the logical trait of opinions in the Ajna center. That's the gate that will collect patterns to determine which is best. And it has a lot to do with serving or ruling. Its keynote says the ancient laws that those who wish to rule must know how to serve. Those need to go together. It's collective, so it's ultimately in service of humanity, as I was mentioning earlier. It does bring the possibility for organizing formula, theories, methods, organizing people. So if you have something you need to organize, this can be very helpful while this is present. It's the gate of the right eye that sees in the now and takes in all the patterns that are there. So you may find that you're more attuned to patterns while this trait is present. It starts the cycle in line 2 called discrimination. That has a developmental theme that says the benefit of associations based on the highest values. The exaltation's about waiting to be invited to share your opinion, in which case it will be heard, while the detriment is imposing your opinion, in which case it's less likely to be heard, even if it's correct. On April 2nd at 9:04 a.m. Mountain Daylight Time, it's going to move into line 3 called understanding. So this is the line of trial and error. It has a developmental theme that says the awareness that the best road is not necessarily the most interesting. The exaltation says the following of the best road provides the experience necessary to meet the challenge of the road's end. The understanding that the best opinions are grounded in detail. That's really the crux of this exaltation. The detriment says the taking of shortcuts. One may get to the end quicker, but essential experience will be missing. The possibility of skipping details and limiting the value of the opinion. So in other words, you're not going to be able to back up your opinions and theories with all the details needed for others to be able to understand and be able to experiment with your theory or method or opinion. And it's not going to have any value then in that case. This really exemplifies that third line trial and error, taking all those little detours, but in the end, gathering an awful lot of information. We have Uranus sitting in gate 8, the individual trait of contribution and holding together in the throat center. This is the voice of I know I can contribute or not. It's sitting in line 5 called Dharma. It's got a developmental theme again, which is something that we learn over time. Now, this is the line of the teacher where you contribute your wisdom and let others go do what they want with it. Or the detriment where you don't want to let go of those you contribute to so you can try and control how they use your contribution, like the parent who can't let go of their child and let them spread their own wings. Neptune sitting in gate 25, the individual trait of spirit of the self, of innocence, and universal love. It's in line 5 called recuperation. Here we have another developmental theme that says when innocence is sapped of its vitality, healing is the first priority. The exaltation says the ability to recognize the inner meaning of an affliction and to withdraw until it's healed. The power of the spirit to heal and be healed. Now, Neptune's activating this, so that recognition of the inner meaning could be a little veiled, a little tougher to get at. The detriment says hypochondria and the need to be healed by others. The weakness of the spirit, which requires healing from others. Again, Neptune is going to make this a little tougher to get a handle on. Pluto sitting in gate 41, the collective abstract trait of contraction and decrease in the root center. This is the fuel and pressure to start a new experience. But at this very beginning stage, it's about fantasizing. What is that next experience that you'd like to have? All of them. Fantasizing about all of them, but then pairing it back to the one you really want to have. It's sitting in line 4 called correction, with a developmental theme that says successful adaptation to limitation. Now, the limitation is that this is just a fuel. The root's not aware. So it's the fuel that's being brought here. However, the 4th line innately has this knowing that there's the potential to fulfill the feeling in getting the energy to that gate 30 on the other side. It's electromagnetic, that trait of recognition of feelings and of yearning. In its exaltation, it's the energy for adaptation that will be needed to get that experience eventually. In the detriment, there's the expenditure of energy on maintaining relationships rather than on the correction. When you invite others who want to have the same experience, it means there's going to be compromises in how you will go through the experience that would be different from how you would have done it on your own. And in the end, that can sometimes result in some frustration. Okay, so just looking overall at the transit field this cycle, the major theme is really going to be tribal, with the sun and the nodes in those tribal traits, and all of them being connected through that ego center. We also have Mars starts the cycle in gate 22 in the emotional center. Then it's going to move to gate 36, the trait of crisis, early on the 31st. So it's also going to be part of the definition the transit field is bringing. Now, that Mars energy is most often immature and hasty. So we could see this pressure and people jumping into taking action in the name of progress that backfires. And we get the opposite of progress. We get stagnation or going backwards. And then that taking control and over controlling or out of controlness that the Gate 21 is bringing within the context of the community, our families, our groups, the countries. That's going to be playing out. So the other traits can play into that. Saturn sitting in that 17 in the Ajna Center, Uranus in Gate 8 in the throat. Both of those right now have a student teacher type quality that they bring. So, can those that don't understand yield to those that do? And can those contributing let go of trying to control outcomes? And can true depth be accessed, or will we see trivial pursuits? And with all of this, going through the cycles of expression of these traits. Remember that the transit field brings the traits that have the potential to homogenize us to their conditioning. And so it's what we see play out in the world where most people are not self rather than living their unique designs. With awareness, you can observe and learn from these frequencies rather than having them run you. That brings us to the end of the cosmic weather for this cycle. If you want to run your own chart, you can go to jovianarchive.com. If you're new to human design and you just want to understand the basics of the body graph at a high level, what's the black and the red about, the different geometric shapes and so on, you can grab my free Human Design Basics mini course. It's at margotgfraser.com/human-design. All right. If it's correct for you, you can put energy into managing your resources and increasing your depth in an area that really resonates for you. But watch for that over controlling and micromanaging, as well as investing in something you think will bring you more depth that's really not of value to you. So, those are the things to watch out for here. With this strong ego center activation, also watch that you're not trying to prove yourself by taking control of something that really isn't for you to do, especially within the context of your family or groups that you're part of. All right. Have a great cycle. Be kind to one another. And may you know, love, and live the magic of your true nature. Until next time, bye for now.